This is Akashvani. In the program Insights, now we bring to you a discussion on climate change and development of Indian early warning system for tsunami. The participants are Dr. Shailesh Nayak, Director, National Institute of Advanced Studies, and S. Rangabashyam, Anchor.
We have with us Dr. Shailesh Nayak, the Director of National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bangalore. Warm welcome to the program, Dr. Nayak.
Thank you very much.
Sir, at the very outset, on behalf of Akashvani, let me congratulate you for being conferred with the Padma Shri Award for the year 2024.
Thank you very much, and namaskar to all of my audience. Thank you.
Sir, we are talking about the Padma Shri being conferred on you. I'm sure, it would have been a wonderful moment when you got to know about it. Tell us about your first reactions, how you felt.
I was very happy and happy for the purpose because the work which was done not only by me, but there is a lot of people who were involved in executing all these tasks. So it's a sort of a recognition of the efforts which have been put by many people and many institutes. So in that connection, I was very happy for this recognition.
And how do you see it as an endorsement of your conviction in scientific learnings and outcomes all these years and decades that you have put in?
If you have to execute any particular task, it needs long time in doing many things like tsunami warning system, which was done in a very record time, about 18 months or so. But that was possible because there were a lot of other work was already done in one or other way. So what we try to do is put them together, all this and certain innovations which is required to be done. But the basic technology which is required, like communication technology, the remote sensing, the GIS, the decision support system, navigation, all those technologies were available. So what we try to do is put all those different technologies together to make a system which can respond in almost near real time. Because as you know, that the tsunami for the mainland coast, it takes only about 2.5 hours, and Andaman Nicobar about 20 to 30 minutes. So our system should be able to respond in that manner, that fast. So we had kept a target initially that we would be able to do it in 15 minutes, and then we reduced it to 10 minutes. And now we have been able to do it in about 6 minutes. So the first thing which was very important to do, to detect the earthquake, because that is one of the main reasons for most of the tsunamis. So now to detect the earthquake, you need a global data, and you need also this information to come in real time. So we had a connection network, about 300 stations, and that data is continuously streaming. So you have to continuously make a system which can process and find out where the earthquake is occurred. And once the earthquake is occurred, we have to find its location, whether it will affect India or Indian Ocean, and there should be more than 7 magnitude, then only the tsunami will generate. So if it is less than that, we don't worry. But if it is more than that, then we have to find out whether tsunami is actually generated or not. So we need the connection with all the tidal stations. So we need data of tidal stations streaming in. We also have placed the bottom pressure recorders on the seabed about 3,500 meters below. And that information also continuously streaming. And they are very sensitive, even about few millimeters change in the sea surface, we can detect it. All this information is streaming, and we can find out whether tsunami is generated or not. Once we know that the tsunami is generated, we have to find out at what time it's likely to come and what is likely to be amplitude. So for that, we have different models which can give a prediction at every 50 kilometers, not for India alone, but for the entire Indian Ocean. So there were 1,600 points where we were giving a forecast. And then this information has to reach to all 22 countries in a time. So we had to set up that dissemination system. So the whole thing is designed in a decision support system, which is completely automated. The innovation was how to put them together and make it completely automated. Like today we are talking about Internet of Things, machine to machine talking and all. But this was all done in 2007 as a part of tsunami warning system. And the most important, even till today, we have not given any false warning. So it worked pretty well.
So both ways it is perfectly working all right. Tell us about the time duration which we will get before a tsunami is triggered. What would be the duration this entire system will give?
Tamil Nadu coast, it will take about 2.5 hours, depending upon where the earthquake has taken place. In Andaman, it may take 20 to 30 minutes. But we are able to do in 5 to 6 minutes now, all this process. So there is enough time. Like for Andaman, all the police stations, 8 police stations are directly linked to our system. So as soon as the tsunami comes, the alert goes directly to the police station. So they can immediately take an action to evacuate people if required. And also to on the mainland coast, we have a little bit more time. So it goes to the local administration, state administration, national administration, and then whatever steps necessary are taken. And there are different types of advisories, whether red means the evacuation, there is a orange, there is a yellow and green when it passes. So like our different lights, which we have, traffic lights, that green is all clear, yellow means you have to some kind of an alert. You have to be ready, but not necessary to take any action. Red is the highest order. So there are different level of information given. What is the level of height of the tsunami, where it occurred, what is likely inundation going to happen, which are the areas likely to be get inundated. So all that information is provided in different level of the advisories.
Dr. Naik, let's talk about climate change, which has come into sharp focus, especially in the last 2 decades. Tell us the kind of work which is being done in the field of oceanography.
The most important when we say about climate change, we have to integrate the information which is available in ocean, the atmosphere, in snow and ice, the land use change, all those together, what we call as the Earth system. But the ocean has a very major role to control weather and climate. Now, the one thing which is very important is that how much ocean is absorbing the heat. Because atmosphere becomes warm, it absorbs the heat into the ocean, and that leads to the expansion of the ocean. So the sea level will increase. Also, when the land ice melts, that water also goes to the sea ultimately. So that also leads to the change in the sea level height. Also, some of time the tectonic changes like large earthquake which occurs on the bottom of the sea can also change the surface and can make the changes in the sea level. Now, so all this information which is change in the sea surface temperature, sea surface height, or what we call as a sea level, which also affects the changes into the wind. So we also need to understand the wind and the currents, the salinity. So host of information is continuously collected to understand the different properties of the ocean. And that are used to understand that how the climate is changing, how the temperature in ocean is changing, how the sea level is changing, if there are changes into the currents and the total heat content, because the generation of cyclone depends on the heat content.
Dr. Naik, when we talk about blue economy, fishing is one major economic activity which happens in the ocean. Tell us what kind of contribution oceanography can make in improving this economic activity of fishing.
The one is currently, if you take India, our most of the fishing is what we call as a coastal fishery. They don't go too far off. Very important, and most of the fishery which we get, about 3.7 million tons per year roughly. There may be some variation, but roughly average is this, which is supporting a large number of fishermen, almost more than 100,000 fishermen who has a large boat. Now, the next step which we also need is a deep water fishery. There is large amount of fish which is available, which could be commercially exploited, is available beyond 100 meter up to 2000 meters. But for that, you need a different techniques for harvesting them, processing them, and make a products which would be utilizable into the market. So that is one area which we need to focus. There are other area we need to focus is also the ornamental fishery. There is a huge market in the ornamental fishery. The third is the aquaculture we have been doing, but there is another mariculture. That means you put the cages into the sea itself and grow fish. So there were some experiments done, and it used to be a very successful experiment in near Rameshwaram. So we need to have now this technology to be further propagated into the fisherman. There are certain fauna and flora available into the deep into the sea, have a very special properties, and many of them has bioactive compounds, and those bioactive compounds can be very useful for making the drugs. So this is another area which has to be addressed. So this is all related to fisheries. So there may be many other sectors which will come up as a part of blue economy.
Dr. Nayak, let's also talk about, pollution, and even in, pollution in the ocean, more specifically about oil spills which keep on happening. What all kind of advancement has been done in order to mitigate the effects of pollutants and, more specifically oil spills?
Oil spills, now there is a very good understanding in the sense that once you know that the spill has occurred, the first thing which we need to know is where it is likely to go or how it is likely to move or where it is going. So there are models which can tell you very accurately where it is likely to moving, and accordingly, you can plan that how to control it or remove this oil spill. There are different methods, but once you know that this is what is going to happen, it can be done. The important thing in the oil is lighter, so it floats on the surface. So that way it is much easier to remove it from the surface itself. And there are chemicals also which can disintegrate this oil spills and become smaller. So this problem is now by and large is able to handle. But there is another issue which is now coming up is of a microplastics. The lot of plastic which is now goes into waste. Plastic, it disintegrates into smaller and smaller particles, what we call as a microplastics. And ultimately, all this plastic find their way into the ocean. And now we are seeing that many fish has also the microplastic in their gut. And this is a very serious problem because in ocean, there is no hard substrate. But this microplastic provide hard substrate for the viruses, bacteria to move from one place to the other place. So this is a very serious problem which is now being faced, and it takes about 75 to 100 years to completely disintegrate. So whatever you are putting will continue for a very, very long time. So this problem has to be addressed on a priority of the plastics.
Dr. Nayak, when we talk about disaster management, some of the disasters can be predicted like, cyclones and storms. Tell us what kind of advancement has happened in the field of storm surge prediction and also, cyclones, the intensity, the exact landfall and all these.
There is a tremendous progress, and you have been seeing that last 15 years or so. Our predictive capability of a cyclone, its landfall point, its intensity has improved drastically. You have been seeing that in 1999 when Odisha cyclone came, almost 10,000 people died. Yeah. The recent cyclone in the Gujarat, there was a 0 death reported. And that all happened because of the three factors. The one, the information about the cyclone is very accurate and reliable. Second, the response by the government at all levels is exemplary. And the third, the people also aware and the conscious about the hazard of the cyclone. So all the three together, as we have the great success in managing the cyclone. And as far as the inundation is concerned, the inundation also we have improved drastically because we have very accurate data of the coast on the topography and the nearshore bathymetry. These two are very critical to understand the inundation from the storm surge. So we are able to now predict the inundation area. So the response has become extremely good.
Dr. Nayak, it's been a pleasure discussing all these issues with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on climate change and development of Indian early warning system for tsunami. The participants were Dr. Shailesh Nayak, Director, National Institute of Advanced Studies, and S. Rangabashyam, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official.